Let's start with some crime, but as well as some diplomatic news, as Ghana's ambassador to Japan, Edmond Kofi Agbanuche Day, has been called to explain the circumstances leading to the alleged release of part of a property belonging to Ghana's mission to a gang of Japanese gamblers. Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Thomas Kwesi Quartey, told news teams that the ambassador was expected to arrive in Accra yesterday. The minister said former ambassador to Japan, William Mensah Brandford, had already been interviewed regarding his involvement in the renting of the property. He said investigations into the letting out of the property had gone far and indicated that interviewing the current Ghana's ambassador to Japan on the issue would facilitate the completion of investigations by Japanese as well as Ghana's authorities. The Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister declined to make any further comment on the investigations, insisting that any commentary would come only after the conclusion of current investigations. Recently, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration announced that it had initiated investigations into allegations its mission in Japan was involved in an illegal gambling business which had led to the arrest of 10 Japanese citizens.
Ghana is on Wednesday, March 26, expected to sign an economic partnership agreement, which the Third World Network Africa says will allow duty-free, quota-free 75% of goods imported from the European Union into Ghana and other West African countries. The group, which has always been opposed to the agreement because of the implications for local business, has petitioned the president in a last-minute bid to stop the signing. Atani has the rest of the story.
The Third World Network, which was at the head of a group that met President Mahama to petition him against signing the EPA agreement, briefed newsmen on the meeting. The group, with representatives from the Trades Union Congress, Chamber of Commerce, Socialist Forum of Ghana, and Economic Justice Network of Ghana, says the agreement, though opens the doors for Ghana to export to the EU, will kill local industry.
You can't get to a middle income level and then you backtrack and take policies that will take you to the LDC level. That is why the EPAs again is not acceptable. The other point we all need to appreciate is this. This is not a free trade agreement. On the free trade agreement, the other parties are allowed to, exploit their abilities, capacities to compete. This one is not so. You are being locked into a treaty that does not allow you to ever grow. That is not free trade. In fact, this is the worst form of a mercantilist trade agreement.
The group is especially worried exposing local goods to the competition from their already established European brands will kill the local industry.
The last meeting, 3 countries said, we want to go and consult. Otherwise, this thing would have been closed in February. They said, we want to go and consult. Togo, weak. You think Togo, Mali, and Nigeria. They said, we want to go and consult. And people are to agree, because committing your country is a serious choice. This thing, it's about pressure and people caving in, okay? The Europeans are desperate to lock in a competitive advantage in the face of losing space in their colonies. It's important to understand where this thing is coming from. We did not initiate the negotiations on the EPAs. We are not demanders. We've been reacting to demands on us from the Europeans from day one.
The group adds not signing the agreement will save the domestic sector, jobs, future policy space, etc., which are practically priceless. On Wednesday, March 26, Ghana is expected to join other ECOWAS Council ministers in Yamoussoukro, Côte d'Ivoire, to sign this ECOWAS EP agreement. Even though the Third World Network has appealed to government not to go along, the decision will ultimately be government's. At On Joynews.
Unidentified gunmen have shot dead a small-scale miner at Techimai near Kumasi in the Ashanti region Monday evening. The deceased, identified only as Frimpong, also known as Honorable, was shot many times by about 5 AK-47 wielding men at the entrance of his private residence. Frimpong, who operates Hank Mining, was returning from one of his mining sites at about 8:30 p.m. on Monday when the armed men shot him as he entered his house. Frimpong was in the company of some Chinese nationals during the incident.
Now, over 300 mechanics, decorators and traders at Swame in the Kumasi metropolis have been affected by a demolition exercise Monday morning. The exercise, according to authorities at the Metropolitan Assembly, is to pave way for the construction of stores and sub-metro offices. But the victims of the exercise say they were not given prior notice and have called for government to intervene. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin's report.
Wooden structures, buildings and containers were pulled down in the exercise with bulldozer supervised by combined military and police team. Victims had to scurry off with their properties into the open. They described the action of the assembly as insensitive.
Masa yede wo so ni ebe physical ye ni ahode ye ni tue ye jai na so wo sa no ma ye dia masa bi do nyame ye se do ma fa tutumu ye dia ko ebe bo wo so mo be di mo ba ma bubu ye shop ya ya we se ye kana mu sa tue ko ke mi no mu tue ko ke mi se die ni se mo tue mu se de ya no gya na aboye be kasa obi amanfo kasa isi wo no e se ye ho edwon se mu sa be gidi
City authorities would not speak to the team about victims' charges, but sources from the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly say the victims and the assembly had come to a settlement that each of them would receive a compensation of 1,000 Ghana cedis and be relocated. Sources also indicate the assembly had several communications with the victims before the exercise, but some of the victims of the exercise insist there was no such an agreement. They say government will have to intervene.
Bubu Hassan, Adeya Muso Mama Baby say Yanko, came for assassin, Matadisi for assassin. Yes, assassin, you so be a my baby, I say Yanko. Yanko, any Atiani and one more can want them. It's yes, one can be my baby, did one more to Yani, my Quamba Sonia Befa sorry, ma. Omubase say, one will be compensation. Now the Debbie Adio Mobia, so you need a decaba. Mr. Boache, Wabaya no didn't be by at least be by say, oh, mama compensation. Not to be a compensation, Hana. Then chairman now a year, can say garages, zone 24, acting chairman. Or now, woman in the Koshia, and what G Sika, and not the baby container, but it will be a Maiska.
Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin's report from the Ashanti region for Joynews.
Commercial drivers from various unions in Kumasi have given city authorities a 7-day ultimatum, after which they will block all access routes and give a hard time to the police in the city. Well, tractor drivers on Monday stopped commercial activities to demonstrate against police extortion turned into demands at new terminals, as they also accused the mayor of the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly of corruption. According to the drivers, the KMA had entered into partnerships with individual businessmen who own bus terminals to provide working space for them at a higher cost than the government-owned terminals. Leader of the union, Reverend Elisousu, told Joynews the assembly had neglected their core duty of serving the interests of the people in order to line their pockets with kickbacks. The Reverend, however, said at a news conference that the heavy military presence in the city, which was aimed at discouraging them from fighting for their rights, would not stop them from embarking on any demonstration.
And we're going back to that story we brought you yesterday about the boy with hernia. Now, Deputy Central Regional Minister Quinsta Pokia Sawyer has donated 1,200 cedis for the surgery of little Ezekiel, who has been living with hernia for more than 5 years because his mother could not afford a 200 cedis surgery. Young Ezekiel has been missing out on education because of his condition. His story, which first aired on Joy News last Saturday, touched many hearts. Hopefully, now that the money for the surgery is available, 6-year-old Ezekiel can look forward to living life as a normal child. Now, some representatives of the Deputy Central Regional Minister presented the money on behalf of the minister, and my colleague Emmanuel received the donation on behalf of Ezekiel's guardians.
The Accra Region Police is holding a suspect over what they say was attempted arson at the Makola Market here in Accra. This was after she is said to have been found pouring kerosene on some shops at about 2 a.m. Monday. The suspect was arrested and handed over to the Accra Central Police Station by some security men stationed at the market.
The suspect, whose name was given as Amagana, is believed to be in her mid-30s. She was handed over by the authorities at the Makola Market. According to the public relations officer for the Accra Region Police Command, they have not made much headway in their investigations because the suspect is refusing to cooperate.
They spotted her around 2 a.m. this morning sprinkling kerosene in the market, just around the law school. That's the Makola Market. So she was arrested, and this morning was brought here. A complaint was duly lodged. So we have to commence investigation, but we've observed that she's not cooperating, and besides, we are having doubts about her mental capacity. So we are taking her to the psychiatric hospital for thorough examination and a report written on her to inform us on our next line of action.
There have been strong suspicions of arsonists involved in a series of market fires that has plagued the country, especially last year. The state is, however, yet to get a successful conviction of any of the previous suspects arrested in connection with the fires. An investigation conducted by a team of American specialists also failed to establish arson in the incidents that were investigated. Matilda Pamaga for Joy News, Accra.
Now, beginning next month, all mental health patients caught roaming the streets of Accra will be forcefully seized and sent to the psychiatric hospital for treatment. The move comes at a time when the few mental health facilities in the country are severely constrained. But acting Chief Executive of the Mental Health Authority, Dr. Akwesiose, said there are plans to expand access so the current facilities do not suffer.
Though there has been some restructuring by the Ministry of Health to overhaul the current mental health centers in 2013, implementation of the mental health law faces great challenges. Since its enactment in 2012, a government fund that needed to be established to see to the overall operations of mental health delivery in the country is yet to materialize.
We are preparing the LI as of now. We've already finished the first technical draft. We are going to have a stakeholders meeting on the 15th of April. So you have a national consensus on the LI, and then it will go to the Attorney General and to Parliament for it to be passed. So once you have the mental health fund established, then we have a regular source of flow of money. And with that money, we will then be able to improve the lot of the existing psychiatric hospitals. Until then, we will still largely require the government of Ghana subvention to be coming, which as at now is not coming exactly the way you want it. So the hospitals are still, as at now, we are in distress of some sort. We are, no doubt about it.
But the board intends to start clearing mental health persons off the streets by next month, and the exercise, which would begin on a pilot basis in Accra, would subsequently be rolled out in other regions.
Now, this exercise will not really affect or will not be hampered by our financial distress that we have now. In part of the financial distress, we are feeding the patient, and we are only going to bring 10
to up to the 485, that will not change much or will not worsen our plight.
Meanwhile, decentralization of mental health care is also set to begin 3 months after Operation Clear the Streets, with dedicated psychiatric wings set up at the various district and regional hospitals.
Eventually, we are going to have regional psychiatric hospitals, standalone psychiatric hospitals in every regional capital. That will have between 40 to 50 beds. So if a patient from the regional hospital, psychiatric wing of the regional hospital, is not well enough and requires to be kept longer, then he'll be sent to the regional psychiatric hospital for another period of more than 1 month. It's only when that patient is still not well enough and requires further treatment that will be brought down to the 3 established psychiatric hospitals, Accra and Kafo Pantan.
This, Dr. Kwesi Osei hopes, would greatly improve and raise the bar in mental health care delivery in the country.
Over 500 teacher trainees with education colleges in the Eastern and Greater Accra regions have embarked on a peaceful demonstration in Accra. They want a restoration of allowances their predecessors used to enjoy, but which have since been scrapped by government.
President John Mahama, in his recent State of the Nation's address, made mention of efforts to address the teacher deficits in the country, and one of them is the scrapping of teacher trainees' allowances, which is supposed to increase admissions into the colleges of education. But this hasn't gone down well with teacher trainees across the country, who say that the situation is rather pushing many of them out of colleges.
The peaceful demonstration, which started from the Obra spot in Accra, with the heavy presence of security personnel, brought together trainees from the 6 colleges of education within the Eastern and Greater Accra sector. They marched through some principal streets of Accra, chanting songs expressing their displeasure about the move by government. The demonstration, according to the trainees, is to press home their demands for government to review its decision to scrap the allowances.
It is serious. That is why we are embarking on the demonstration. For government to hear us. For government to hear that, look, the scrapping of trainee allowance will not be the best alternative to improve and to increase teacher population, but rather it is detrimental to teacher education, and government must relook its decision. Now, for the first time in the history of teacher trainee education, first semester, 8 colleges in the eager sector, you have 300 students withdrawing, which doesn't happen.
The Eastern and Greater Accra sector president, Jacob Lajeku, lamented government failed to honor its promise to absorb their feeding allowance.
We have not heard anything. We finished the first semester. We are in the second semester, and feeding fee has not been paid. And principals are charging student feeding fee 500 Ghana cedis per semester. They paid last time. Now they are paying again, and those who cannot find money to pay, they are being sacked from the school to go home. Where are they going to find the money from?
The group later converged at the Hart Suffolk Park, where the national president of the Teacher Trainees Association stated their demands.
This decision and change of policy on teacher education, we strongly believe, will be very detrimental to the future of education in our country. Taking into consideration the historical antecedents that led to the implementation of allowance scheme and the positive effect it has had on teacher education in particular and basic education in general over the years. We are, as a matter of urgency, calling on you to intervene immediately by restoring the allowance so that the poor trainee will be able to pay their feeding fee and other bills.
The petition was later presented to the director in charge of tertiary education at the sector ministry.
I believe we as a ministry had our position and they also had their position, and maybe we couldn't come to common grounds, but we thought in a way it was also good because it frees the system for a lot of people to be taken on, because during the quota system, because within the Ministry of Finance didn't have a lot of money to pay for allowances, they had to have a quota. So every college of education had a quota. You know, you can't take more than this number of students. But with this policy, you could take as much as you can, because government is not going to pay any allowance.
The demonstration was replicated across 4 other sectors in the country, except for the voter sector, which failed to embark on the demonstration over supposed threats from their college heads. Matilda Pamagan for Joy News, Accra.
Well, meanwhile, teacher trainees in the Volta region have expressed disappointment over their school's heads' refusal to allow them to join the scheduled national demonstration. According to them, the heads prevented them from leaving their schools for the demonstration to push for a restoration of trainee allowances.
Addressing a news conference at Ho on Monday, the Volta sector president of the trainees, Prosper Shitie, described the situation as an affront to quality teacher education. According to him, the Principals Conference of the 7 colleges of education in the Volta region deliberately refused granting students permission to go out of their campuses to hit the streets. He further added that though they duly informed the police and all concerned authorities, including the National Principals Conference, they were still denied.
Because this promise was never fulfilled. We are therefore calling on government to take his own policy and give us back our allowance so that we can cater for our own people.
SRC President of the Piki College of Education, Eric Awuto, who said he had to sign an exit stating false reasons, told Joy News his principal threatened his colleagues with possible sanctions should they attend the scheduled demonstration. They, however, maintained they are in support of their colleagues' call for the restoration of the allowances, especially since government has failed to honor its promise to pay their feeding fees. Komlados reports from the Volta region for Joy News.
Well, so that's it for the latest news update we have for you for the morning. And now let's just give you a recap of our top stories.
Ghana's ambassador to Japan, Edmond Day, invited home over Japanese gambler's case.
Beginning next month, all mental health patients caught roaming the streets of Ghana's capital, Accra, will be forcibly seized and sent to psychiatric hospitals for treatment.
The Accra Region Police is holding a suspect over what they say was attempted arson at the Makola market.
Angry commercial drivers in Kumasi have given city authorities a 7-day ultimatum to address concerns they have with perceived police extortions in bus terminals and around the city. Well, so that'll be it for the morning. In the meantime, we'll have to bring you the latest headlines we have in sports, all on the AM show. Please get interactive.
Yeah, before we do that though, 2 things caught my attention. EPA stands for 2 things. Top of my head, and I'm asking you,
which
one? EPA, what does it stand for?
The Economic Partnership Agreement.
And what else?
Environmental Protection Agency.
Okay, yeah, you got it right. Otherwise, I was going to throw it out to you, and I was going to give you a bar of chocolate this morning, but he got it.
Right.
And Stay On for Sports is brought to you by Cowbell.
You stay on. We'll be right back.
Good morning, I am Baba Tando with the latest in the world of sports. Let's begin with football. And yesterday, the much-coveted trophy that will be fought for at the end of the first Capital Plus Premier League season 2013-2014 arrived in the country. And our cameras were there at the airport to meet that giant trophy.
First Capital Plus Bank indicated that they had a package for supporters. This partnership is unique in so many ways because this is the first time a sponsor will be rolling out something to support supporters. In addition to that, there are many other surprises that we'll be seeing during the season, and that will make this partnership unique. Without being prejudiced, I'm sure that among the 16 Premier Division clubs, they know who will be winning the trophy. I don't know. I don't know whether it's King Faisal or Inter-Allies or Hasselhoff or Wow Stars. But whoever annexes this trophy will be making history as the winner of the 2nd biggest trophy in the world. But having won it, we'll be taking it back and we will replace it with a miniature one, the smaller one. In fact, the miniature trophy itself qualifies as a trophy for the championship. It's so big that it could have been given out as the trophy for the winner of the league.
All right, I cannot wait to see who gets this trophy, but it looks like it's being defined already with the points difference between the 1st and 2nd place teams on the Premier League table. I think, well, with some 9 matches to go, I could say that Hartsfield have lost it to Kotoko, but let's see, never say never, because there's a lot of mathematics to work to the end of the season. Away from that, now Hartlepool, they can afford to heave a huge smile of relief because the protest against them for failing to pay coach David Duncan, after they ended his contract, seems to have been thrown out by the Ghana Football Association.
Protests filed against Hearts of Oak by 2 clubs for failing to pay within time a cost following their termination of David Duncan's contract has been dismissed by the disciplinary committee of the Ghana Football Association. Adriana Stars and the Buswan Dwarfs, in separate cases against Hearts of Oak, claimed that the respondent failed to pay 5,000 Ghana cedis for costs of proceedings within the stipulated 14-day period after the Player Status Committee found them guilty for breach of contract for the dismissal of their coach, David Duncan. However, in the ruling of the disciplinary committee, the cost awarded against Hearts of Oak by the Players Status Committee is not specific to decisions of the disciplinary committee that can lead to a forfeiture of matches. Following the dismissal of both cases, a cost of 5,000 Ghana cedis each has been awarded against both clubs.
All right, away from Hartlepool, let's do boxing. Away from Hartlepool and football, let's get into boxing now. And 22-year-old Ghanaian boxer Frederick Okunka-Lawson, he has taken his unbeaten streak to 22 wins out of 22 fights. And last Saturday in the United States of America in Minnesota, he was able to beat 34-year-old Ugandan-born American Mohamed Kayungo.
Frederick Lawson improved his 100% career record to 22 fights over the weekend, following a 6th round stoppage of Ugandan-born American Mohamed Kayungo in the United States of America. Lawson lived up to his pre-fight pledge to stop Kayungo, and the Ghanaian dominator threw out in what was his maiden fight in the United States since departing the shores of Accra earlier this year. So dominant was Lawson that the 33-year-old Kayungo gave up after round 5. The boxer, nicknamed Africa Assassin, failed to answer the bell for round 6, giving referee Mark Nelson no other choice than to give the Ghanaian a round 6 technical knockout victory. Frederick, per the result, maintains the push to get into the World Championship reckoning under the tutelage of coach Joseph Awinyoya at their Chicago base. He confirmed his camp is lining up another fight in Chicago to be made public next month.
All right, so congratulations to Frederick Okunka-Lawson. Finally, before I take leave of you, let's see what's happening in cricket. The Ghana Cricket Association is smiling all the way to the bank because they have been giving some equipment to help promote the sport in the country.
Some people have a long, passionate association with cricket. I'm one of them. And I heard of your need last year for equipment, basics actually, that makes the game enjoyable to play. And I have a son who is also passionate about this game, and this game has actually created a great deal of opportunities for him. He's fortunate to be in a country where the game is admired and fully sponsored and supported. As a matter of fact, he is actually due to go on a tour to Barbados this summer playing cricket, and I hope and wish the same opportunity for all of you here. I hope I'll live to see the day when such an opportunity will avail itself to you. But before you get to that stage, you've got to master the game. You've got to master the discipline that the game also affords you.
Right, so we're getting ready for the Manchester derby tonight. Manchester United up against Manchester City. I certainly cannot wait for that. But there'll be updates on sports on News Today this afternoon during midday. My name is Baba Tando. AM Sports is proudly brought to you by Cowbell. The AM show continues right after this break. Do stay on.